When you're looking to obtain temporary residency in Serbia, one of the requirements is to have somewhere of residence. So typically a lease agreement is needed. Not typically, but 100% of the time. One of the issues that we're seeing from many individuals, not only clients of ours, but individuals who are trying to take on this process on their own, is they're saying that we are having an issue finding landlords who are willing to sign lease agreements with foreigners. And the question arises, why is this the issue? What is the workaround? And what do you recommend? And today we're going to talk to you about why this is happening, the workaround, and what is going to be the next steps as to where to look and how to proceed. All right, so you've made the decision, you are moving to Serbia, you are looking to open up a business, you are looking to perhaps purchase property, however you need a place to stay and you want to sign a lease agreement. Typically the lease agreement needs to be for at least 3 months. We recommend 6 because a lot of the landlords out there will not do something what they consider short term. They want at least 6 months. However, there are a lot of caveats that come when it comes to renting property here in Serbia. And of course, there is no such thing as landlord-tenant board here. When you're looking to rent something, the landlord always has the final say as how they want to proceed, what rent they want to charge, how they're going to charge it, so on and so forth. But what we're getting from a lot of individuals is they're saying that the issue is finding someone who will rent out to foreigners. So, couple case studies or couple experiences that we've seen is, one, we've had an individual who is Serbian by descent. He had a Serbian first name, Serbian last name. However, he did not have a state ID card. He had no passport. His whole idea was to come to Serbia and start his citizenship by descent process through us. Now, even though he had a Serbian last name and he had descent and he spoke the language, when he was looking to rent somewhere and speaking to a lot of landlords, they said they are not renting to foreigners. And he kind of was put back on that, saying, what do you mean as a foreigner? I'm Serbian, I'm coming there to get my passport and figure out my citizenship. And the landlords would say, you do not have a state ID card, we call it a lična karta, and you are considered a foreigner. And they did not want to rent to him. So we ended up finding someone for him and facilitating the lease agreement for that. We also had another individual who came here from Austria or was coming here from Austria. And he asked us to help him find someone in Belgrade. And we ended up calling 20 different landlords. And the first question we have to ask is this property still available? Yes, it is. The next question is, are you willing to rent it out to foreigners? 20 out of 20 said no. And they're not looking to rent it to foreigners. And if they are, they're not going to register them at the police station. They're not going to sign a lease. They just want to do it word of mouth, which is not something that is going to work for our clients because you need a lease agreement in place to obtain temporary residency. And when we're talking to some of these landlords, we ask, so like, why are you not looking to rent to foreigners? And the reason is that, one, they want to keep it to Serbs. They don't want to rent to people outside of the country. which I understand. They want to keep it within the culture. They want to work with their own people. They don't want to deal with people that they can't communicate with, so on and so forth, which is another thing, is that the landlords, they don't all speak English. Majority of them don't. And so their whole thing is, how do I communicate with my tenant if I want to come in and do a routine check, if I want them to pay a bill or follow up with something, or if the tenant has an issue with the apartment? How do we communicate with that individual if we don't speak the same language? That's understandable as well. The other issue that these landlords are saying, and we've had this issue also, is that say the tenant does not want to stay in Serbia and, up and leaves, right? And he says, you know what, I signed the lease and I'm gonna be here for 2-3 months, and pays the 2-3 months, and then up and leaves, and the landlord can't get a hold of them. Now it's more of a process to go and remove the registration at the police station, and it's more hassle to do it than if the tenant was simply here and said, hey, I found another apartment, I'm moving in this so-and-so date, and I'm gonna go with you, the landlord, and make sure that I deregister myself from the police station. We had an individual that came here from the United States, and I really feel bad for the landlord. And the issue was that he came here last year, and we found him this apartment. The landlord, he was someone that I go to the gym with, right? And he knows that I work with foreigners. He said, hey, listen, I got these tenants, they bought their own house or apartment, and they've been great tenants. They've been there for 12 years, and so we're looking to get someone else in there. Do you have any of your clients who want residency here, who are gonna stay on a long-term basis, and that we can rent it out to them? The rent was great. It was a 44 square meter apartment, 1 bedroom in an old building, very quiet building, for only 250 euros per month, plus of course utilities, which was gonna be like another maybe 100 euros, right? So even 350, it's a really good price, especially in the location that we found. So the individual came here, he met with the landlord, they signed a lease agreement, and things were good for about a month. And so then the next thing you know, the landlord's calling me up and he's like, hey, listen, where is the tenant? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I can't get a hold of him, and it's like November, and he hasn't paid rent yet. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure. He was supposed to come and start the business process here with us, and he hasn't even started that yet, and then going to temporary residency. Let me get a hold of him. I know that he was looking at finding a storefront. He was saying he was going to some butchers, trying to find, quality meat for his business venture that he's starting here. After about a week, he says, oh, okay, I found out that he went back to the United States for the holidays, and he's going to spend some time there with his family, and he's going to pay the rent and all the utilities. I'm like, okay, as long as the rent is paid, that's not a problem. He's like, but the thing is, he didn't let us know, like, what happens if there's an issue with the apartment? We need to at least know that he's not in the country. I'm like, I understand, fair enough. So long story short, the client tenant came back in January of this year, and he moved back into his apartment, and he came here and he said, hey, listen, I want to start my residency process. And so we started that out, and he started, getting a business plan together, finding commercial space, so on and so forth. And the next thing you know is I reached out to the client. I said, hey, listen, the police station is asking for extra information from you that we need to get, and we have a time period of only 5 days to get this to them. No response. The landlord calls me and he said, hey, listen, where is the American? And I'm like, I'm not sure. He's not responding to me. He's like, he's not responding to me either. So about 2-3 weeks goes by and no response. And after 3 weeks, the tenant answers and says, "Hey, listen, I'm in the United States and I'm going to pay the rent. Don't worry about that." And the rent went unpaid. The landlord ended up entering the unit because his rent is unpaid. He has a right to go in there. The tenant left all his clothes there, all the laptops, all the paper. He even left wet laundry in the washing machine to the point that it turned moldy. And the tenant was, or the landlord was like, "What do I do with this?" And he reached out to the tenant and he says, "Listen, I'm not coming back to Serbia. Throw all that out." I'm thinking, wow, that is huge disrespect. And if that's something that these landlords are experiencing with foreigners, this is not going to fly, and they're really not going to rent out now to another foreigner if this is the experience that they got. Because one, they didn't get their rent paid. Second of all, they had to go and throw out all their belongings because the guy said, "Hey, listen, I'm not coming back." And so he said it was almost as if it was a pig pen. Everything was on the floor. He sent me pictures. I'm not going to post them anywhere on social media, but it was disgusting. And so I can understand why a lot of these landlords nowadays, especially if they're experiencing this type of stuff, and I've had other landlords who've rented their apartments to people from Nepal, from India, and the next thing you know, they have bed bugs, roaches, garbage, all on the balconies, a huge smell. And the thing is, if you're coming here as a foreigner, you need to understand that you have to show respect to the people who are opening your doors. And if you are having people say no to you, these are the reasons why people are saying no. They're sick and tired of people disrespecting, not paying rent, taking advantage of the situation, and causing havoc for landlords. And in the end, landlords are going to start buttoning up and saying no more foreigners. And it's going to be that much more difficult for someone who is looking to come to Serbia, who has good intentions, but because of bad apples, they have now tarnished the whole idea of foreigners coming here. And so, one, you're going to have an issue of finding a place. The other one is that the landlords, they're going to come up with their own rules. So, for instance, we've had one client that the landlord was going to rent it out to them for a 6-month lease, but his whole terms were that you need to pay me 6 months of rent up front plus the utilities up front. So you're looking at a lot of money. And if you're coming here and looking to set up and you need to fork out all that money, that could be a deal breaker for you as an individual who's looking to come to Serbia. And, there is no discrimination. There is no, this is unfair. These are the rules that the landlord wants. And if that's what he wants, that's what the rules are going to be. Some of them also want to put in the rules or in the lease agreement, I have the right to come into the apartment once a month. Of course, they're going to agree on a time and a date that you can come in there so they're not interfering with the tenant's life. But I want to come in there once a month to make sure that it's in good condition, good working order, and that you're not creating a disaster of an apartment, creating damage, not getting things looked after, not letting me know, hey, there's a water leak, a light is burnt out, whatever it might be, because if it's not your place, a lot of people, unfortunately, don't care. But people here in Serbia, they want to keep things in good working order. They are proud of the stuff that they own. They want to make sure that it's in good functional condition. They want to make sure that it's kept up to a good quality for people and themselves, because these are their own personal properties. And just because they're not living in that spot or that apartment or that house at that current time doesn't mean that they may not have a sibling or one of their children or grandchildren moving in there at some point, or a family member or a friend. And if it's in a bad condition, it has deteriorated because the tenant has not told them, now it's going to cause a lot more issues for them in the future. And so my whole recommendation is that if you're looking to move, rent a place, you find someone who is going to find you an apartment, who is going to ensure that you get a good lease in there, that will rent out to foreigners, that will not ask for 6 months up front, but of course you can't control that. If that's what the landlord wants, that's what the landlord wants. And that you come here with good intentions. Don't leave a pigsty. Don't up and leave and create havoc for landlords here in Serbia, because not only are you hindering yourself with ever coming back, because I know myself, if that client or tenant that left that apartment a complete disaster for the individual that I go to the gym with every day, I won't be working with them. I will not be recommending them anymore. And so if you do ever intend on coming back, you're going to tarnish your reputation and any other foreigners looking to come to Serbia in the future. I hope this video gave you some clear insight and some understanding of what to expect and how to proceed in this country. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.